Hey everybody, it's Jeff Antoniuk. How are you doing? Welcome to the Jazz InBetween-isode number 3. It's kind of a weird name. I did a series of 18 videos over the last couple months on my personal process of getting ready for a bunch of big gigs with the Baltimore Symphony. And just behind the scenes, like really sort of the ugliness of what it takes to get ready for a big gig, from preparing with the instruments and all that stuff. Anyway, that series of videos got a lot of good response. I really appreciate that, and people asking for a little bit more. So I'm doing 6 sort of in-between standalone videos on some topics that are important to me. In between, meaning on February 1st, I'm going to start a brand new series, and I'm going to be announcing what that's about in the next couple weeks. But it should be a pretty cool series that hangs together on its own. Anyway, today I want to talk about eighth notes. And eighth notes may sound like a pretty ridiculously specific thing to talk about. And it is, but it's not ridiculous. I actually yesterday was teaching a high school jazz festival, doing some work with clinician stuff. And there were a bunch of great faculty members there from around the East Coast. And what did the topic of conversation fall into when we were in the hallway? Time and feel is what we ended up talking about. I played a great gig last night with a guy who's been nominated for a couple Grammys, a couple university professors, recording artists. What did we end up talking about? Time and feel, right? The insiders know that that is what makes this music compelling. And when I say this music, it doesn't have to be swing. It could be playing a samba. It could be Afro-Cuban. It could be a funk tune. It's the feel, right? We all know that, yet every class, every book, when I say every, let's call it 99%, fair enough, 99% of all the material that we learned, the classes I took in 8 years of college, were on harmony and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we all agree that this feel stuff is so important, but it's hard to talk about, right? We just tell people, oh, go listen. And that's great advice, but, you know, there's got to be something a little deeper, and I think there is. So how about this? Let's start with this. An alien comes to Earth, or a politician maybe comes to Earth, and they don't know anything about jazz. All right, I'm going to get comments on that. And we have to explain what jazz sounds like. And so we start talking about improvising and the African-American experience and on and on. And so they may say, okay, so jazz is whole notes, right? And we say, no. And they say, well, it's half notes and quarter notes, right? And we think about it and we'd have to say no. So if we really think about every note played in the name of jazz over the last 100 years, what note values, and we put them all in buckets. What bucket has the most notes in it? Triplets, half notes, 16th notes? The answer is eighth notes, right? I'm pretty confident that I got that right. Eighth notes. That is the language of jazz, right? So I remember a great teacher, Tim Hagens, well, a great player. And I'm going to talk about Tim in just a little bit more, because a lot of what I'm saying today is based on what I learned from him. But got to learn how to play a lot of eighth notes and be comfortable with them. And I remember when he said that to me, I was like, huh, you know, I kind of like playing more, I don't know, broken, angularly, rhythmically, that kind of thing. And I remember him saying, well, you know, so play what you're talking about. So, you know, if I play a blues. And he said, okay, so what were those note values? And as I really thought about it, almost every single note I played was an eighth note. Now, I was imagining rolling eighth notes, right? 8 eighth notes in a measure. But I may have played 2 or 3 triplets in those couple hundred notes I just played. You get the idea. So if I play, every single one of those was an eighth note with eighth rest. So there's this matrix of eighth notes. And we have to learn where to put those notes. This gets complicated, so that's what I want to talk about today. I'm actually going to expand this into a longer presentation a little bit later on in the video series. But you get the idea, eighth notes. So go with my thesis or not, that's where it's at. So there's a lot, for me, there was a mental thing about being comfortable about just playing a bunch of eighth notes. That just wasn't my style. I wasn't comfortable with putting together long lines 25 years ago as a student. Whether I'm playing atonally or playing over changes, just that was hard for me, just demystifying that. Now, so there's a mental aspect to, I don't know what the next right note is. And so what does that do to your technique? You fumble. It may not even be a finger thing, it's a brain thing. Your brain is like, oh God, I don't know what to do. Oh God, I don't know the next right note. And there's a fumble, right? And there are going to be technique fumbles and air fumbles and everything else. So here is the assignment. This is the basic assignment. We're going to go a little deeper right away. But play eighth notes. So when I was studying with Tim Hagens, this is after I did my master's degree. I was driving up to Philadelphia and New York, studying with him. He had me play eighth notes for 30 minutes a day. No rests allowed. I was not allowed to use rests for I think a year, something like that. So, doesn't sound like jazz. It's not supposed to sound like jazz. I'm getting used to so many things. Moving my air, connecting notes. That is incredibly hard. Every pro out there knows what I'm talking about. Even fingers. You noticed I wasn't swinging, right? That's a conscious decision. Again, we'll talk more about that. But playing these even eighth notes. And my brain I found it getting in the way. Sometimes I think, oh, I should. Now, I was playing essentially atonally there. And that's what was recommended to me. Don't play in a key. Don't play around the circle of fourths. Whatever, because when you're playing around the circle of fourths, you're thinking about the circle of fourths. You're thinking about dominant chords. You're not thinking about eighth notes. So we're getting rid of everything and only thinking about eighth notes. That's the exercise. Play tens of thousands of eighth notes every day. He had me do this for 30 minutes a day. I did it for years. Just demystifying eighth notes, getting my air to flow. When I would make a mistake, whether it's a mental note mistake, a finger mistake, an air mistake, play through that. The momentum of your eighth notes doesn't change. So let me see if I can screw up. This shouldn't be hard. So playing in the extreme registers, way down lower, jumping up 2.5, 3 octaves. So yeah, my tone wasn't there. I was not voicing right. Whatever happened, play through that. The momentum of your eighth notes has nothing to do with your fingers being accurate. The momentum brings your fingers along. If you miss pitch or whatever for 5 notes, guess what? So did Freddie Hubbard and Nat Adderley. And those were my favorite parts of those guys' solos. When they would go for something and it wouldn't come out, but they were freaking intensely moving ahead with those eighth notes. And it was just, man, that's the best stuff for me, that intensity of the eighth notes. They're screwing up, and I like that better than the other stuff, right? So you get the idea. Eighth notes, eighth notes, eighth notes. Now, I have been talking a little bit about this online, and people have been mentioning George Garzone. A lot of folks who have had the wonderful luck to study with George Garzone up in Boston. So he would talk about this eighth note stuff and playing these very straight, unarticulated eighth notes. So I was studying with Tim Hagens, who at the time, well, he had been playing with Garzone for decades, I think, and Joe Lovano and on and on. So this is definitely a style of playing, a more modern, straight, relatively unarticulated eighth note style. Now here's the thing. I love this exercise. I never give an exercise that is going to lead someone too far in a particular direction. This is for advanced students. With less advanced students, I definitely have a plan, and you need to learn how to do this. Okay, with more advanced students, I want exercises that lead them to their sound. So here's the thing. You could play like Paul Gonsalves from the Ellington Band. You could choose to play like Sweets Edison, whoever, Clark Terry, whoever your eighth note hero is, this exercise is going to help get you there. But starting with that straight, unarticulated sound. It's hard for me to do. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I came from, big band tradition. I went to North Texas. I played in trillions of big bands. All that good jazz articulation stuff, hitting the high note of the line, ghosting, all that. It's good. Not that we're not ever going to do that. I don't know if you heard, though, it didn't have the same momentum. It was interrupting my airstream. So all that style was screwing with the foundation, the matrix of my eighth note. So here's the exercise, is you do these straight, even, intense eighth notes. And you learn how to do that. And you figure out, do I have air issues? Do I have voicing issues? Do I have finger issues? Do I have mental issues, as in my brain isn't giving me the information quick enough? That's all stuff we'll talk about another time. But get that straightened out so you can create these amazing eighth notes. Now you overlay the style on top of that. And now we introduce rests, let's say, which sounds like a simple thing. Rests are hard. Introduce a bend, introduce an accent on a high note, ghost a note. But now you've got these solid eighth notes that won't be shaken. I mean, it's kind of like buying a crappy, rickety house and putting fancy shutters on it and a nice siding and everything. The thing's rotting from the inside. That's what a lot of our time feel is. The time feel isn't there, and we cover it up with style, right? It's like taking a out-of-shape guy, putting him in a $2,000 suit and like, all right, maybe. You get what I'm saying? Sorry, big guys. And sorry, guys with $2,000 suits. All right, so you have the idea. That's really what this exercise is. And when you hear somebody that's not quite swinging, or you're adjudicating a middle school, high school band, and it's kind of real ricky-ticky sounding, guess what? Way too much articulation and overswung. Too much of that triplety feel, not enough straight eighth notes. So I would encourage you to give this a try. 30 minutes a day, that's a commitment. It's awesome though. Do 5 minutes of this. I guarantee, if you've never done this, 30 seconds in, you're going to be losing your mind and cursing my name. Fine, curse my name, Jeff Antoniuk. Pronounce it right. All right? 5 minutes. But it's interesting. You'll get over some of these little mental humps and some resistance. And when you start finding that flow, it's amazing. Now, here's the other thing. If your favorite player is Dexter Gordon, who traditionally would play behind the beat, Michael Brecker, who traditionally plays on, or sort of aggressively on the beat, this exercise lets you sound like those guys. So this exercise isn't supposed to make you sound modern and angular or any of that. This exercise is supposed to give you tools to sound the way you want to sound. So it's one of the best exercises really I know. So give it a try. Eighth notes. I always love to hear your comments on this stuff. Please go to YouTube. If you go to Jeff Antoniuk Educator, that's the YouTube channel, you'll see all the previous 20-some videos. Please subscribe there. I'll be doing one of these a week, and you can just see the next one when it pops up. All right. Thanks so much. Take care.